I know it's not a frog, but I just got home from walking, and I almost stepped on this little guy. Actually, not a little guy. He's pretty big for a toad, as far as the toads I've seen anyway. What do you think, buddy? Are you ready for what's about to transpire? Are you ready for the Asui Tsuyu discussion?
Alright, here we go, Matt. Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and welcome to, let's just be straight up, the video everyone was waiting for. I mean, yeah, I know, not like every single one of you is going to be as big of a Tsuyu fan as the next, and I understand this. In fact, today I was at Subway getting a sandwich, and the sandwich artist, I think that's what they call them now, just happened to be into My Hero Academia, so we were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I don't really understand why people like Tsuyu too much. I like Ochako more, and I'm like, honestly, I do too. But the fact remains that Froppy Mania has spread globally, and we're going to try to cover every aspect of her character in the series and outside of the series here in this video. And before I even get into the actual series, before I talk about her quirk or her personality or her relationship with other characters or what she's done in the story, I got to address, like, the elephant in the room here. I got to go into this larger context with Tsuyu, why she is just so redonkulously popular. So redonkulously popular. And okay. Just to be fair, I'm a pervert. We all know this. However, on top of talking about, you know, because I have to, because it's such... The fact remains that there's so much hentai art of Tsuyu, I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. This is a video all about Tsuyu, and I can't show you anything other than this amazing, talented piece of artwork by Vinralgrave. If you want to check out his DeviantArt below and get yourself your own Tsuyu print, you'd check him out. He's a pretty talented dude. I'm going to talk about that, but I'm also going to talk about why she is such a likable character, you know, her personality, all that kind of stuff as well. So we're just going to deal with everything here. But I got to start off with that. I got to start off with how come she got so popular. And, you know, I don't even think I could properly put it into words as well as this comment right here. Now, I don't know if this person, this is a tweet, I don't know if this person originated this comment. I have seen this on, you know, across social media, many websites. I've seen this exact comment, and it makes me laugh every time I read it, but it's so true. It's like, I haven't even read My Hero Academia yet, but I would already die for the frog girl. I'm like, just... give that man the Nobel Peace Prize right there. Froppy will end all wars. Okay, so I have a few ideas on this. My first one is this. She just has a very unique design that's sort of like right there in the sweet spot between human and animal. Alright, because here's how this goes. Let's just say human, an ordinary human is on this end of the spectrum. And ordinary humans in anime, they're, you know, they're typical, they're normal, you know, not much going on here. They could be seen as boring in terms of just a design if you don't do anything special. If you just draw a human, there you go, that's all it is. However, on the other side of the spectrum, we have a character, let's say like Carrot from One Piece, an anthropomorphic rabbit that's covered in fur and has the bunny ears and a little nose. Now, I like Carrot, hashtag not a furry, by the way, but I could see why some people might get a little bit weirded out by that. He's like, oh, that's a little bit too furry for me. So there's like this sweet spot right in the middle that Horikoshi just nailed with Tsuyu, where it's like, alright, I'm gonna make her based off of a frog, but I'm not gonna go full frog, and you never go full frog. I think we're all aware of that. The only one that's allowed to go full frog is Kermit, and he pulls it off in grand style. Now, in fact, Kermit might be the most popular frog in the entire world. I think everybody knows who Kermit the Frog is, but he is in fact the most popular male frog, good sir or madam. I think when it comes to the most popular female frog, I think that slot is still open and ripe for the taking, you know what I mean? Okay, so I think that's one thing he did right there. Because frogs, you know, they have a bunch of different kinds of skin color. If Horikoshi really wanted to... Yes, I have the field guide. You know, the snakes, reptiles, and amphibians, and a field guide here. You know, frogs have a variety of different skin color. This one just looks adorable. And if Horikoshi really wanted to, he could have made Tsuyu like a different skin color. He could have really went the whole frog route with it, but he did not. He made her more like a teenage girl, just gave her, you know, a certain stature, the way she stands, you know, webbed toes, webbed feet, the long tongue. So just the fact that he, you know, designed her right in the middle of those two extremes, and she has such a unique design, I think that's definitely part of it. She stands out from the crowd. I mean, just the first time we saw all of Class 1A together when they were in like the quirk apprehension test that Aizawa was giving them, she stood out. Even though we didn't know what her whole thing was about yet, what her backstory was, what her quirk really was, it was just like, oh, there's an interesting design for that girl. You know, she has some interesting quirk. I can't wait to find out more about her. That's going to be pretty cool. And so another thing, though, I think why people just gravitate towards Tsuyu is, let's actually think about this for a second, okay? She's a girl that has the power of a frog. That seems like the kind of thing, like, if that existed in real life, like, if there was a girl that looked like a frog, she would, like, be made fun of, you know, like, massively, throughout, like, high school especially, you know? Like, you look like a frog, you weird girl. But, the fact is, she is so likable by not just her classmates, by the entire world. It's just sort of like, you know, we accept you, Tsuyu. We love you, Tsuyu. Just for being who you are, we love you. And that's a very positive message that I like. And hey, fun fact, did you know Horikoshi was originally going to make Tsuyu a male character with a frog quirk? Same quirk, you know, the ability to, you know, have frog stuff, but just male instead of female. And I, for one, think that that character would be just as popular as a male rather than a female. This concludes the bullshit section with Tekking101. No, I don't think for a second that she would be as popular if she was male. I think Horikoshi also, I don't think he was planning on it being like, I'm gonna make a sexy frog girl and everyone's gonna go crazy and draw really provocative hentai art and she's gonna become the most popular character in the entire series. I don't think that that's what he was planning. I think he was just trying to angle it like maybe there's not enough women in the class, or, you know, drawing a man with a frog quirk, you know, that might be a little bit more, I feel like that's been done before. You know what hasn't been done before? A female with that kind of quirk. I think it can make it work. Maybe something like that to make it more unique and the class like balanced in terms of gender. Maybe that's why he did it, and I'm very glad that he did. I'm very glad that he decided to go that route with it, and Tsuyu became the person that she is right now. Okay, so that's just addressing that. And when it comes, by the way, to the popularity polls, it's not like Tsuyu's ranking like #1, although granted, I think those polls are just like in the, you know, the actual magazine of Shonen Jump, like you vote in the magazine. Now, there might be another way to vote online, but I think it's limited to Japan when they do those popularity polls in Shonen Jump. I might be mistaken. If they had a situation where like all My Hero Academia fans could vote all at once in the exact same poll, like globally, maybe that already does exist. Maybe that is what I'm thinking of. But if that's the case, I feel like Tsuyu would rank a little higher. She's already in the top 10. She's already redonkulously popular, but yeah, that's the situation there. So let me know what you guys think below on like just the sheer level of popularity that she kind of like transcended through that. It's not all just because of the hentai. It's not all just because of that. And just to go into that, I'll touch upon it because it's kind of important to touch upon like all aspects of the character. Yeah, she's got a long tongue. There's a lot of stuff you could do with that. You know, there was even a scene, like, in the actual manga, in the actual story, like when, during the USJ, when she was saving Mineta, and Mineta's pressed up against her chest, and Mineta has this line where he's like, man, your boobs are pretty big, huh, frog girl? She's like, ribbit, and then, like, chucks him over the edge. So, I mean, Horikoshi kind of knew what he was doing there, I think a little bit at that point, what he was setting up, but probably wasn't expecting the massive amount of, like, doujinshis and fan art and hentai that was going to exist. But then you get other weird scenes in the story as well where it's like they seem like they're cool with it. Like, remember the fight between when Tokoyami and Froppy were fighting against ectoplasm at the end of the semester exam? And you know what happened? You know how they won that? When they were captured by his giant clone, and then Tsuyu spit up the handcuffs and then gave them to Dark Shadow, and Dark Shadow slammed them on Ectoplasm's peg leg. There was a lot of weird things I just said. That was a very nerdy sentence, what I just said. It's like, alright, so the frog girl spits up a pair of handcuffs to give it to the familiar of the raven-headed kid, who then slaps it on the clone teacher's peg leg. Yeah, okay. But, you know the scene. I mean, come on now. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing with this. Horikoshi, and you know, okay, alright, fair enough. But, yeah, there's a lot of provocativity that exists in Tsuyu, but that can't be the only reason, you know what I mean? Like, that's part of it, but that can't be the only reason she's popular, alright? Because I like to give the fandom a little bit more credit than that, where they're just like, oh no, the reason she's popular is because she has a long tongue, and we could draw a bunch of really provocative things with that tongue. I'm like, yeah, you can. I've seen my share of it, but there's other aspects to this as well. Don't think that there isn't. It's a little bit more complicated. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get to the actual story itself now, shall we? So, we see her during the quirk apprehension test. We see her during the battle trial. She's teamed up with, I think actually Tokoyami in the battle trial, as well as with Tokoyami later on in their fight against ectoplasm. So, they have a good, you know, teammate dynamic going on there. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't say you would, like, ship them together. Maybe you do. I don't know. But never really thought of it like that. They just get, you know, seem to be teamed up quite a bit. More recently in the manga, she's teamed up a lot more with Ochako, so we'll get into that. And hey D20, can we get Ochako next? Because I have a few ideas for that one too. But anyway, it wasn't really until the USJ. That's when Horikoshi decided, like, all right, USJ, I'm gonna focus on Mineta and Tsuyu and Momo and Kaminari and Jiro. I'm gonna give them their time to shine. I got to start fleshing out these characters in the class to have like a little bit more of a cohesive story here, to really show that each one of these students has something to present to the table, has different personality traits, and a different dynamic with everybody. Now, when it comes to Tsuyu, her dynamic is great because she is one of the most cooperative heroes in the entire series. In fact, like, when they give her stats, you know, she gets like a 5 out of 5 in cooperativeness. That's her highest stat. And later on, when, you know, her and Tokoyami were fighting against ectoplasm, it was Recovery Girl that was talking like about their quirks, and Recovery Girl was like, yeah, Tokoyami's quirk is really good at mid to long distances, but he kind of falls short when it comes to close range combat. Meanwhile, Tsuyu Froppy is sort of like a jack of all trades with no clear defined weakness. And that's certainly the case with her. Her frog quirk is very simple. It just lets her do all the things that a frog can do. Whenever it's explained, that's all that we get. It's just, oh, she can just do all the things a frog can do. So the obvious things are, you know, she has a long tongue and she's really adept in the water. She can swim rather well. Her posture, the way she just, you know, walks around in a certain way is very frog-like. Web toes, all that kind of stuff. But then there's a few parts of it about, you know, being a frog that you wouldn't expect. You know, like, she can inflate her stomach so she can keep certain objects in it and then spit them back up, although she finds this act a little bit disgusting and she doesn't like people to watch her do this. She can also emit a sort of like irritating, you know, substance from her. It's not quite acid, it's not like poison or anything like that. I would imagine if she wanted to just, like, you know, like hock a loogie, not the way you want to envision Tsuyu, but it would probably be a sort of technique where she can just, like, you know, spray this liquid all over a character's skin, and it would probably just feel like a burning sensation. It wouldn't be like a corrosive acid where it like starts to eat away at you until you're nothing but bones or viscera or whatever, but it would be like, it's stinging me. So that's the kind of stuff she can do. And then later on, during the provisional license exam, she revealed a new froggy move, camouflage, which, you know, some frogs are capable of camouflage. And by the way, because so many types of frogs are in fact poisonous, these are all poisonous dart frogs, I think it's very likely that at some point in the series, she might unlock that kind of poison ability for her to secrete poison from her sweat glands or something, and then, like, punch an opponent, because some of the poisons from those frogs you don't want to mess with. Tribespeople would actually collect these frogs and use the poison on their arrows to attack, you know, either other tribes or whatever, animals or whatever, because that poison is very effectual if it's not diluted. I mean, that stuff can drop an adult human pretty damn quickly. You really don't want to mess with that stuff, okay? But yeah, the way that Recovery Girl was talking about it was that, yeah, she's just this jack of all trades, no clear weakness, because in close combat, she's really adept at that because of her agility, and by the way, her small stature is actually something advantageous when it comes to close combat. It's kind of hard to hit. But utilizing her leg strength and her tongue, she can maneuver around really easily. So Tsuyu's in front of you in close combat, you go to punch her, she could, jump away using her legs and then grab something with her tongue and then spin around and then smack you upside the head. She can also be very adept at long range as well, because that tongue has incredibly long range and you can get hit from that. She can wrap it around your neck, she could strangle you. So don't look at her quirk and say, oh, she's a frog, because that's what I thought at first. When I found out what her quirk was, I was like, oh, she's a frog. Okay, that's gonna be really useful on the battlefield. Oh, no, it actually sort of is. Now, don't get me wrong, she lacks the sort of, destructive offensive power that other students like Todoroki or Izuku or Bakugo have. It's not like she has, ribbit cannon, boom! She doesn't have anything too epic like that. But when it comes to combat, kind of hard to hit, very agile, and she could, restrain you or knock you on the ground pretty easily. So don't underestimate her, alright? And maybe someday she'll unlock that poison ability, because if we're just talking about all things a frog can do, there's many different species of frogs just in general. Anything that's exhibited in any sort of species of frog, she can eventually unlock. Then I'm waiting for that poison move, and then she might actually have, the ribbit cannon. It's like a poison glob that she can kind of eject. Kind of like Ashido's ability, which maybe that's why Horikoshi's kind of holding off on it, because if, he has, Tsuyu use poison-based abilities, and then shows Ashido with her acid, and it's not poison, it's acid, but that kind of similar things, like shooting out, some kind of, fluid at an opponent, might be kind of similar. So, but I highly suspect that's where Horikoshi's going with it, as, one of her most devastating attacks. So, we'll get to that point eventually, I feel. Now, during the USJ, her and Mineta and Izuku teamed up to take on the villains, okay? Now, this was a really important fight that was really integral to the story, because this showed, this was their first battle. Serious battle. We're not just pretending here. This isn't just for school. These are villains that are attacking us. And I like the way that Horikoshi portrayed the kind of tension in that moment. A lot of the students froze up. They didn't really know what to do, because they are rookies, and they're not expecting this kind of stuff. It was a sneak attack, all right? And granted, the villains, they were not ridiculously overpowered. The villains were just a bunch of riffraff, but they had, better use of their quirks, and they kind of had them longer than Izuku has, of course, and, they were prepared for this battle. The kids clearly weren't. So I like that Horikoshi had this, where he was just like, okay, let's do this realistically, how these students are going to react. Tsuyu being one of the students that, some students are going to freeze up, some are going to be like Izuku, I don't know what to do, others might be kind of cowardly, like Mineta. Tsuyu was a student that just saw the situation, calculated it, and okay, I'm here to help, what are we going to do? We need to figure out a way to use our quirks in order to capture these, the villains, or knock them out, or get them away, or something like that. And then so, sure enough, Izuku, Mineta, and Tsuyu all team up, and they managed to create that whirlpool, and they knocked the villains into it, and, with the combination of Tsuyu as well as with Mineta's balls, they managed to trap them all in that zone. So that was a really awesome moment, where it really showed, the teamwork between Tsuyu and Mineta and Izuku, and how, okay, we can be heroes, we can do this, because that's what heroes have to do. They have to think off the cuff, because, robberies are not something that are planned, guys. It's not like the villains are going to send out a press release, okay? You got to figure this shit out right there. But I think out of all of them, it was Tsuyu that was the one that really got the read on the situation the fastest. Izuku followed closely after, but his character is, a little bit more nervous at that point in the story, where he would just be, mumbling, or he would tend to overthink. You know how Izuku is with his mumbling and stuff. He'd just be like, oh, the villains are here, okay, what am I going to do? Well, if we think about this moment, so that's not exactly great either, because you're still stalling when a villain might attack you from behind. But Tsuyu, girl was on point with that. So that was the first impression we got from her character. We also got to see that, yeah, she's a frog, but don't underestimate that quirk. Don't think that it's just a goofy little quirk. She goes ribbit a lot, and she just hangs out by ponds or whatever and floats around on lily pads. It's a very versatile quirk that she can use. And her entire family, by the way, has a frog-based quirk. Her brother and her sister and her parents. So this actually might, not just because, she's been training with it ever since she was a little tadpole, but also if her parents had the same quirk, they could, like, pass on stuff to her, like, oh, Tsuyu, when I was a young tadpole, I did this. I'll stop with the tadpole jokes. Okay, it got lame after the second one. You gave me a pass on the first, but all right. When I was a young man, I trained my quirk like this, and your mother trained her quirk like this. So you could take that in mind, because she actually has a base to work off here. Because a lot of students' quirks, their parents might have a, like Bakugo's. Bakugo's parents' quirks are not explosion. It's a combination of the glycerin quirk from his mom, and then the acid sweat from his dad. So Bakugo had to figure out the whole explosion thing on his own and how he could make that his own quirk. But when it comes to characters like Tsuyu, or even Jiro, because Jiro's mom has the earphone jack, they can kind of go to their parents and talk about how they use their quirk and maybe figure out a way to perfect it in their own unique way. Moving on to the sports festival, not that much Tsuyu in the sports festival. Maybe that's because, once again, Horikoshi wants to focus on different characters for each arc, and this was still the early parts of the story, so he's like, I focused on Tsuyu in the last arc, so let's focus on some other students here. Now, when it came to the race, I think she did fairly well. I think she finished in the top 20. I think it was like 11 or, 12 or something like that. And when it came to the cavalry battle, she was teamed up with Shoji and Mineta, and they did the cool thing where Shoji would use his dupla arms to kind of cover them to make sure that they couldn't get, captured, but unfortunately, they didn't end up making the cut for the third round, so they didn't get added into that. Although she did end up on the cheerleading squad, which, maybe that's part of the reason. I'm trying to pinpoint the exact place in the My Hero Academia universe where Tsuyu became, like, an overnight sensation. Like, there had to be one point. Was it the moment when Mineta rubbed up against her boobs, or was it the point that she was in the cheerleading outfit? Was it this scene? It was probably this scene. Yeah, okay. It was probably that scene in the manga. That makes sense. Now, here's the thing, though, also about Tsuyu. She has some cheerleading experience from what she said, I think, to Toru. So maybe she was a cheerleader when she was in middle school or whatever. And she's available, by the way, in a variety of different outfits. We have cheerleading Tsuyu. We have underwater Tsuyu. We have hero Tsuyu. We have festival Tsuyu. We have winter Tsuyu. Keep in mind, being cold-blooded, that also kind of affects her. Cold is her natural weakness, so she has to make sure to, not get her body temperature too low, or she'll actually go into hibernation, get very lethargic, and she can't move around beyond that point. So that's kind of a weakness to her frog quirk as well, the positives and the negatives of that. But we also have Beach Tsuyu and Sleepy Tsuyu, and man, how many Tsuyus are there? Okay, the point is, a lot of fan art. All right, that's not even fan art. I believe that was from a game. But yeah, not a lot of Tsuyu when it comes to the Sports Fest. She doesn't play a role in the Stain fight at all, although at the same time that was going on, she was doing an internship with Selkie, who is the Spotted Seal hero, the big buff dude that's a Spotted Seal, but he's also really adorable. And now, this gave birth to one of the greatest filler episodes ever, because I believe even Selkie, he wasn't in the manga. He might have been mentioned, I don't know, but in the anime, they gave a full filler episode to Tsuyu hanging out on the boat with Selkie and his apprentice, and they were taking on this octopus villain, and I'm like, oh god, I know where this is going. I get why they did it. I get why, if you're gonna do a filler episode, do it on Tsuyu. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? But why did you have to introduce the octopus villain? Like, where this is going. Yeah, exactly where it was going was what I figured it was going. But everything ended up, good at the end of the day. Selkie showed up and beat the shit out of the octopus before it got a little bit too hentai there, and everything's all good to go. And I really enjoyed that filler episode. Speaking of filler episodes, in one of the more recent ones, during the provisional license exam, we got introduced to... You really understand the anime department knows what they're doing with the filler episodes. They're just like, let's just focus on Tsuyu, and doesn't matter if other characters are involved, but Tsuyu has to be involved in the fillers at some point. Are you guys ready? Prepare your cuteness reflex, because it might explode, alright? It might overload your brain. Prepare yourself for baby Tsuyu. Oh my god, that's so adorable! Makes you feel kind of weird, though, considering all the aforementioned hentais out there, and then they have an anime episode where it's like, oh, she's a baby now. Yeah, so... I think the anime team might just be trying to screw with you at this point, you know what I mean? But alright, I had to bring that up, because the very few, full filler episodes in the My Hero Academia anime, and the ones that are, they involve Tsuyu in heavy ways. Okay, so, yeah. After that, we have the end of semester test. I already kind of touched upon this when Tokoyami and Tsuyu team up against Ectoplasm. Once again, showing her, like, snap decisions on this, where she realized, you know what, I think it would be very advantageous if I swallow the handcuffs, and then I could spit them out whenever I want later, and we can maybe get an option to take Ectoplasm by surprise. Like, who thinks of that? I understand it's her quirk, only she could do this. Tokoyami can't swallow the damn things, and it'd get lodged in his, throat and he would pass out. But, the fact that Tsuyu would come up with that idea, because it did kind of look like it was sort of painful for her to do that, shoving these handcuffs down her throat and stored in her stomach. That doesn't sound like it would be, like, it would kind of, like, hurt her tummy, you know what I mean? And also, she was against the whole spewing it back up. He's like, it's kind of disgusting, don't look. But she knew this, like, going into it, like, this is going to be necessary to win this. Not what I would prefer, but, a lot of times when you're fighting villains, you're not going to have your options on what you would prefer. You just got to do what you got to do. So, and then they took Ectoplasm by surprise. And, I mean, yeah, Dark Shadow had the assist there. If it wasn't for Dark Shadow, then they wouldn't be able to pass, so it's not all the credit goes to Tsuyu, but a lot of that credit went to Tsuyu, you know what I mean? So moving on to the training camp arc, this is a part of the story that, once again, doesn't involve Tsuyu all too much. She does get some screen time in a really cool moment that speaks more volumes about her character. It's just she doesn't get as much screen time as I think you would expect. But her and Ochako team up to go do that test of courage out in the woods, and then shit hits the fan, and the villains attack and everything, so they're in the thick of it right there, running from the gas and all that stuff. They run across Toga. My frog fell. They run across Toga in the woods. Toga is this creepy high school girl, really, scary, demented serial killer expression. She's walking out of the woods and busts out the switchblade like, I wonder what color you guys bleed. Do you want to be my friend? Okay. The cool thing about Tsuyu is that when she said this earlier on in the series, like, she wants to meet new friends, and that she loves her friends so much, and, you could call me Sue, only my close friends are allowed to call me that, and all that stuff. But when it comes down to the wire, she actually will put her life on her line to protect her friends. And the only reason I bring this up is why it's an important thing about her character, is because, I was in high school not too long ago, right? And when you're in high school, you're going to have a group of friends and everything like that. And I think sometimes you might go a little bit overboard with how much, like, you love your friends. Like, I'm telling you a quick story, okay? I knew a girl that was in, like, a clique of friends, and they would always be together, and they would always talk to each other at lunch, like, they were inseparable. They're always like, I love you so much, you're my best friends, I wish we're together forever, nothing's gonna come between us, all that stuff, we're the best friends, we're always looking out for one another, always looking out for each other. And then something happened with a boy, and the whole group kind of broke apart. And I'm like, wow, yeah, and I'm sure that was a friendship that was destined to last ages, because I kind of figured it was going to happen, because it's happened a lot. But tell you what, when it comes to Tsuyu, she's 100% genuine with that shit. She's like, you know what, I'm going to protect my friends. She's like, okay, creepy high school girl with a Bane mask walks out of the woods, pulls out the switchblade. First thing she does is she protects Ochako. That's what she does. And I'm like, that's awesome. And then she tries to fight Toga with her tongue, and her tongue ends up getting sliced by the knife, and that was a kind of cringy moment even for me. I was like, oh god, because imagine your tongue getting sliced by a freaking switchblade, or like a butterfly knife, or whatever that was. It doesn't matter what kind of knife it was a freaking knife. Alright, but she put her life on the line to protect Ochako, to make sure Ochako could get away. Now, eventually Ochako helped out as well, pinning Toga to the ground using her, like, martial arts shit she learned from Gunhead. So they worked together there, but just the fact that the first instinct that Tsuyu has when danger approaches is hero time, engage. I'm gonna distract her, you get away. I'm gonna protect you. That's great. I love that shit. Alright, very good at snap decisions. So, after the training camp, she gets patched up by an EMT or something, tongue gets a little cut, but she's not as injured as the other students were that were knocked out by the gas or anything. Okay, so now this is where we also get more into Horikoshi delving into her like connection with the rest of her class. All right, and I know I sound like a broken record. I know I sound like I'm up here like, oh, Horikoshi did this great. Horikoshi did this great. But I really, the dude really does understand like the dynamics between like a teenage class. All right, and the reason I say this is because look at what happened during the hideout raid. You had Momo and Ida and Kirishima and Izuku all go, and Shoto as well. Sorry, I didn't forget about you, Todoroki. They all go to rescue Bakugo, right? And they're there in Kamino, and they manage to rescue him, and they come back. I feel like in the hands of a lesser writer, this would have just been handled like this. They come back, they're at the dorms, everyone knows about what they all did in Kamino, they were there. This is how it would go, I think, in the hands of a lesser writer. They'd be like, oh my god, you guys were awesome! I can't believe you were right there! That's crazy! Are you guys okay? Did you see All for One? Holy crap, that guy was insane, right? You brought Bakugo back. You guys are all great. And granted, a lot of the students do that, but then you get to Tsuyu. You get to Tsuyu, who is not praising them for this. Tsuyu, who is moved to the point of tears by what they did. Because that's how much she cares about her friends. And she had that moment in the hospital before they went. She was like, guys, I understand you feel like you need to save Bakugo. I get it. But just going off on your own and acting this way, that's not the way a hero does things. Especially since, we've been told directly, let the pros handle it. Going out on our own, that's kind of vigilante-ish, or that could end up getting us killed. And she raised perfectly valid points. This wasn't something where it's just like the whole class is like, you guys gotta go save Bakugo. Alright, we'll go save Bakugo. Yeah, you all save Bakugo. Fist bump, everyone's happy. No, there are consequences to this. There were consequences to this. Alright, but one of which is like, they really hurt their friends' feelings. They really like, she felt like a little bit betrayed, and she was crying because she's like, once again, she's somebody that jumped in front of Ochaku, like, I'll protect you, but then when she sees her friends that she really genuinely loves run out and do that kind of stupid shit, even after she said, like, please, listen to me, don't do this, and then they did it, she's like, please, just, you have to understand how much this really, how much this bothered me, really, because if you guys were to run out and die, I don't know what I would have done with myself, Like, you could have gotten killed. It's sort of like the love that you would have for like a sibling or a direct family member that Tsuyu feels for all of her classmates. Like, it's 100% genuine. She's not faking anything here when she says that, I'm there for you. You know what I mean? So I think that's the big reason. If we're going to look at her and just say, why she's such a fan favorite, I think that's a pretty big part of it too. And just a little bit more on that, I think it really just serves as sort of like an anchor. That's what Tsuyu is, to keep them sort of like anchored in the territory of what it means to be a hero. Not to, don't stray too far from the path. Okay, that's what her purpose is, one of her purposes. Because if it wasn't for her, if Tsuyu didn't exist, then the group that went to Kamino might not have had that moment of realization. I mean, yeah, they got chewed out by, like, the pros and stuff, and Aizawa told them, I would have expelled all of you if it wasn't for All Might's retirement and everything, but I think it was that moment when they went outside of the dorms and they met Tsuyu and she was crying. I think that was the moment right there that really kind of showed them what they did and how much it affects others, and if they're going to be heroes, they can't be doing that kind of stuff the exact same way that they did it. All right? So I think she's like kind of anchoring them to that point where it's just like, all right, Sue, it's okay. We won't do anything stupid like that again. We're sorry for making you worry so much. We'll try to act like actual heroes in the future and not just run off like vigilantes or just say, screw the rules. We want to do this, so we're going to do it. That's not the profession you're signing up for. That's not. Go join Koichi and Knuckle Duster and Pop Step in the vigilante, league if you want that kind of thing. But if you want to be a hero, you got to abide by certain laws, even if you're not happy with them. Now, here's a question for you guys. Here's the thing. Would Bakugo have been okay if the group did not go to Kamino to try to rescue him. This doesn't really have anything to do with Tsuyu, but I'm just bringing this up as a hypothetical. You know, you never know what might have happened. Bakugo might have still managed to get away without the group managing to rescue him, or not. So let me know where you weigh in on that. You know, he could have, you know, like when All Might was fighting All for One, he could have figured out some way to use an explosion and get away. I know there was a bunch of other villains attacking him, but who knows? It's Bakugo. He might have figured out something. He might have used, like, you know, stun grenade to blind them all and then jump away, or, you know, explosion jump away or something like that. But I'm just saying, you're like, yeah, you just can't take the law into your own hands all the time. That's not what it means to be a hero. Okay, so moving on, after that we have the provisional license exam. I've already referenced this, and filler episode, Baby Tsuyu. But also, this is where she developed her new technique, camouflage, taking into account another aspect that frogs are capable of doing, some species of frogs are capable of doing, and she managed to use this to her benefit during the second half of the provisional license exam, and right down to the wire, you know, it was getting close to the end of the exam. There was like 3 rescuees left or something, and then that's when she appeared and, you know, showed herself, along with like a few updates to her costume as well in that arc. But aside from that, not a lot of other focus on Tsuyu. So now we get to the Chisake arc, and every single time in one of these videos that I talk about the Chisake arc, I always kind of gloss over it, because I'm like, yeah, Bakugo didn't do anything in Chisake, yeah, Sato didn't do anything in Chisake arc, but Tsuyu was there. She didn't really do much of, you know, a lot of stuff, but she was there. And so we start this arc off by kind of showing what they could do as a team between, you know, Tsuyu and Ochako working together. Froppy and Uravity, they team up. They were working under that dragon hero at the time, and her quirk was literally just to turn into a freaking dragon, so that's badass. They take out these 2 giant heroes along with Hato, the girl that's like one of the big 3 of UA in the 3rd year. And so after taking out these villains, the dragon hero, I forget her name, it's like Ryukyu or something. She goes up to the 3 girls and she's like, man, you guys did a great job. I have a task for you, a certain job I think you guys would be definitely qualified for. And it was the taking down of the, you know, the precepts, you know, of Chisake and his group and everything. So he's like, you should go to that meeting, that team up with my offices and Night Eyes and Sun Eater and Red Riot and everything. You should go and team up with them. Go to this meeting to find out what's going on, because I think you girls would be perfect for that. So they go to the meeting and they're there, and, you know, Izuku's there along with Kirishima and everybody, and they're sitting down and they're going over everything involving Chisake and Eri, and they're just disgusted by this, you know, especially Tsuyu and Ochako. They're just like, I can't believe he's doing that kind of stuff to a girl, you know, that kind of manipulation, also involving the whole drug thing. So they're definitely on board to help out. Now, they do not participate in the actual fighting. They don't actually go into, like, the hideout and participate in the fighting, like, below depths with the precepts and everything like that. They're more of a support role up on the surface. One of the precepts escapes. I forget his name, but he's the one that can drain vitality from others. And he's apparently, you know, restrained, but then he injected himself with that trigger shit, and he managed to break free and use his quirk to absorb everyone's vitality around them without actually being in direct contact. So he drains the vitality out of Froppy and Ravity, and they all begin to pass out, and he breaks free, and then that's when we get a really badass fight. And they manage to smack down this villain, like, big time. It was so satisfying, okay? So Ochako just makes him float. It's a very simple combination technique. Ochako makes him float. Tsuyu wraps her tongue around the villain and just does kind of like an over-the-shoulder throw and just crash right into the ground. And then Hato uses her, like, she basically has like this, turns her vitality into like an energy beam sort of deal, like a shockwave attack, and that's how they take out one of the precepts, and that was cool. And that creates like a hole in the ground that, you know, knocks them down into the hideout, and that's where they run into Izuku and everybody. Now beyond that though, she didn't really play a big role though. She was more of a support hero in that fight. Afterwards, I think she was tending to the injuries of Night Eye, but she didn't have like a direct confrontation. Like that was more of a Kirishima thing, where he had like an all balls out fight against one of the villains, and then of course Lemillion, we had that moment there with him, and then with Izuku, obviously the final battle with him and Eri against Chisake. So there was a lot of really cool shit in that arc. It just wasn't really focused on Tsuyu that much, but she was there. She did play a support role, and her and Ochako and Hato managed to lay the beat down on one of the precepts. So I consider that a win at the end of the day. So to close us out with that, she appeared during the Cultural Fest, obviously, during the big dance number, but hasn't really appeared much since then. But here's the thing. Horikoshi, at this point, knows that she's a fan favorite. We all, we're all clamoring, more Tsuyu, and Horikoshi, I'm sure, will definitely provide a Tsuyu-centric arc later down the line. He definitely kind of has to at this point, We kind of have him by the, at this point. We have them by the Minettas at this point. So, Tsuyu, especially because she specializes in, like, maritime rescue. I mean, she's the rainy season hero Froppy, which, once again, that's like a marketing darling right there. Like, some of the students had a little bit of trouble coming up with their hero names and everything. But when it comes to Tsuyu, Froppy, I mean, I can picture the merchandise already, like, here's your official Froppy poncho, here's the official Froppy umbrella, So, she's a marketing darling already with that, in our world and in the My Hero Academia world. So I think she, out of all of the students of Class 1A, because some of them I'm like a little bit more than others, but with her, I think she will be completely successful as a hero. She'll have a very successful run as a hero. She's good with kids, like, oh, it's the rainy season hero, Froppy. She's so adorable. Save us, Froppy. I think she'll be fine, you know what I mean? Now, when it comes to ranking her on my personal list, this was something very hard to do. But at the end of the day, I rank her number 4. Keep in mind, Momo was number 3, and Tokoyami was my number 1. So number 2, I'm still going to leave that to, well, when we get to their video. But I think number 4 was an appropriate place for Tsuyu there. I have to admit, I'm not way into Tsuyu like a lot of people are. A lot of people, and like Tsuyu in their eyes, like she's just objectively best girl in My Hero Academia, best girl in anime, best character. And I think once again that has to do with her personality, why she's just so likable by everyone around her. She genuinely cares about her friends, and it's not just like, it's more of like a show rather than tell thing once again, because you could just say, I care about my friends, like in that just generic shonen hero sense. But no, she genuinely showed concern there in many different ways. So, yeah, there's that. And also the fact that, once again, Horikoshi just really nailed it with her design, made her unique enough so it kind of separates her from the crowd, and we kind of point her out from, like, a large group of characters, like, oh yeah, she's kind of interesting, but didn't go, like, full frog with it or something. So it made it, like, a little bit more accepting for people that are kind of shooing away from that kind of character design. So, yeah, I think everything just kind of worked out with Tsuyu, and I can't wait to see her in the future. So with that being said, oh man, is it time to end this already? No, there has to be. I mean, I talked about her quirk, I talked about her stuff in the stuff, but there has to be more, right? I found this today. I was in Barnes & Noble, and I was like, what would be cool if we could find, like, a book or something that had, like a picture book that had a big cartoon frog or something for her video. So I got Frog and Toad, which my second grade teacher used to read this to us all the time, so I remember this. So whenever I get married and have kids, if I get married and have kids, if I ever figure out a way to clone myself, I'll have this to read to my clone. But obviously, Tsuyu is, of course, the frog. And here's the toad, if you're curious. Yeah, so I really wanted to have a frog in this video. I can't tell you how much I wanted to have, like, an actual frog up here, like, in a little container. But, then I felt like, well, that's gonna be a lot of trouble to get a frog. And it turns out it was. I tried. I went to, like, a local creek, and I was looking around trying to catch a frog, but unfortunately, they're very clever. They're very elusive. On the other hand, I was walking outside last night, I was coming back home, and right on my sidewalk, I almost stepped on him. There was this toad just chilling out. So I thought, well, it's not the exact same thing what I wanted, but it's better than nothing. So thank you, Mr. Toad. You helped me out with the video. That's pretty cool. We also have all this stuff. I have no idea what this thing is. I thought it was a slipper at first, but it's got this kind of thing. So I don't know. It's like a frog container. Hi. Oh, the classic storybook, The 5 Little Speckled Frogs. One does a giant leap, diving into the deep. Then yes, we're doing this. One does a giant leap, diving into the deep. Then there are just 4 speckled frogs. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. One springs into the air, splashing water everywhere. Then there are just 3 speckled frogs. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Are they slowly dying? Why are they dwindling in number? One hops to catch a fly as it goes buzzing by. Then there are just two speckled frogs left. Oh my god, they're losing all the members of their family. One froggy floats along singing a merry song. Then there is just one speckled frog, ribbit, ribbit. He's like floating down the river Styx. He doesn't like to swim. He gets a boat to carry him. Then there are no more speckled frogs. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. I just watched a family of 5 die before my very eyes. That kinda rhymed. Okay. But, yeah, alright, so that's Tsuyu's video. It's extraordinarily hot in this tight thing right now. So let's move along. Let's go to the D20. Now, a little bit of a revamping for the D20 system. Because we're really going to start getting into the repeats at this point. I think Tsuyu's might have either been video number 9 or video number 10, so we're getting around halfway if we're not there already. So I added 2 D20s to the list. So how this is going to go, we've already talked about both of these, by the way. Number 3 is Tsuyu and number 20 was Momo. So whenever we roll both of these die, the one that's on the left is going to be the one I'm going to use first. So if the number on the left is like one we haven't done yet, then I'll do that one. Or if it is and the second one isn't, then I'll do the second one. So if we roll again and it comes up 3, we've already talked about Tsuyu, but the second die is a 4, which is, I believe, Ida. We haven't talked about him yet. That's how I'm going to do it from now on. So just I'm not clicking, clicking, clicking. We might have to go to 3 rolls at some point, but that's how we're going to do it from now on. Some people have said, why don't you just do a 6-sided? No, it's the D20. I'm dedicated to the D20. I'm D20 dedicated. All right, we're doing it. All right. Roll those 2 D20s. Roll it down the line. What do we got? What do we got? We got 10. That was Sato, and we got 16. I believe 16 was Hagakure. We already did her. All right, so even with the 2, we got 2 ones we have already done. Roll them again. We got 2 and 7. 2. We already did 7. That was Kaminari, but number 2 is Ashido, Mina, and hers. I really didn't have anything planned for hers. We don't really know much about her, I think. She doesn't really have that much screen time in the series. But she's another female, so I'm gonna have fun with it. I know you guys will too. So catch us back here next time where we're gonna be talking about student number 2, Mina Ashido. Pinky, which I really wish they would have gone with her original name, which was Alien Queen. Considerably cooler. But, yeah, anyway, I'm gonna rehydrate my room here. So you guys have a good night, and Tekking101 signing out.